everyone, we're back here in Bali and I wanted to go over some gym etiquette. I've been really fortunate. I've done Jiu-Jitsu since 2005 and I've traveled all over the world practicing Jiu-Jitsu. So I've seen a lot of different ways gyms operate and how like gym etiquette and culture kind of manifests in their practice space. So I just wanted to kind of run through some general ones that you might see at most academies. Again, like the etiquette and culture of a gym is going to really dictate kind of who you're training with. Sometimes you're going to be training in a school with like a lot of traditional values that are kind of instilled in the academy, or sometimes you may be training with a club. So like sometimes the culture will kind of dictate off that environment, right? Clubs tend to be much more casual. Academies can be a lot more like regimented and kind of strict. So I'm just going to kind of give you guys an idea of what to kind of expect. And again, it's going to kind of vary from academy to academy. And if you're new, these are just like good things to kind of know as you're starting off in jiu-jitsu, just to kind of help you ease into the process of, being part of a team. So the first one I'm going to kind of go over is like bowing when you enter the mat. Some academies do this. Like you might see this in an academy, not so much in a club. But bowing when you enter the mat is just a way to show respect for the academy and into the practice space. Again, like not all academies do this. I don't make it like a requirement for my students to do anything like that. But I think it's a nice gesture kind of as you come onto the mat. Again, you're going to get a feel for that as you visit your academy or your club of what they kind of feel, what their guidelines are on something like that. But I've never seen someone like get upset that you're bowing to the mat, So I think it's like a really good thing just to kind of like pause and honor your practice space before you kind of go in there and get started. Sometimes it's like a really good place to pause and like get your mindset in the right place too. Just being like, all right, I'm setting an intention for how my practice is going to go. And this is my moment to pause, bow, show my respect so I can set my intention. And then from there, I can kind of like get started. The next one that I think, like this one's very important, I think it's like a really good thing to practice, is shaking everyone's hand when you come into the gym. So traditionally, like in Jiu-Jitsu academies, what will happen is whoever's on the mat first, obviously there's no one's hand to shake, but as the new people come in and bow onto the mat, their role is to come up to you and shake your hand. And I think this is just like a really good practice on like being more a social person in general. So you want to make that effort to kind of like walk in, walk up to everyone, smile, say hello, introduce yourself if you don't know them. And especially if you're someone traveling, this is like a really good icebreaker anyways, and it'll help you get kind of more comfortable in your environment. Typically, it's like the other way around. Like most people come in and they're quite shy or intimidated if they've never done jiu-jitsu before, so the instructor might be the one that comes to you. But if, especially as a new student, you make that effort to go and say hello to everyone really quick. It's really nice. And this is kind of like a before class thing. If classes started already, the rules are going to be different. Typically, like if class has already started, you wait for the instructor to kind of like call you onto the mat, and then you go up and shake the instructor's hand and jump into class. So again, like some of these are like circumstantial or situational. That'd be like the only time where you wouldn't like run around shaking everyone's hand, because obviously people are drilling, training already. You don't want to like interrupt them as they're practicing, right? Other good things to know, I think general hygiene and cutting your nails is something really important too. Sometimes we get new people coming in and they have quite long nails, so what ends up happening is you'll end up scratching your training partners. Obviously, like no one's intention is to scratch, but when you typically first start jiu-jitsu, you're a bit more like spazzy and uncontrollable and stuff like that. So you might have a tendency to scratch your training partners a little bit, and it's like it's just bad etiquette, right? So we want to make sure we do our best to like check our nails. Typically, if you notice you have long nails, if you ask your coach, whoever's on the mat, they will be happy to give you a pair of nail trimmers if they have them. Like I always have nail trimmers with me. People ask me all the time. It's part of the culture. It's all good. The other one that's like quite important is making sure you wash your gi every practice. I think to new people coming in, this just doesn't sound like they're like, why would I make an effort to wash my gym clothes immediately after using them? I mean, remember jiu-jitsu is an incredibly intimate sport. You're quite close to people. So if you got like a smelly gi, no one's going to want to train with you. And in addition to that, if you also are more susceptible to getting infections like staph, ringworm, impetigo. These are all things like we're really mindful of when we practice jiu-jitsu. So make sure you're making an effort to wash your gi, wash your rash guard, all that stuff after every practice. It's just a good habit to have. Look at it as part of like the discipline of doing jiu-jitsu. So it's something you really want to stay on top of. Also, another important one is like knowing what to address your coach as. So like you go to some schools or really like traditional academies and stuff, they might want you to call them like sir or sensei. Like personally, I don't like any of that stuff. It's like not really like the culture I'm trying to create in my gym. Like coach is okay with me, but again, like ask your coach before you go to class or whatever. Like I just like people calling me Justin. I think that's perfectly fine. But yeah, like you just got to talk to your coach and see what they like to be addressed as. And it's, again, this is just like a gym etiquette thing. It helps kind of like ease your process. So if you're like, it's also going to kind of like help you pick a gym, because if you're going to a place that's like real traditional and that's not really kind of something you're looking for, it's a really good way to identify things right away. Just being like, oh, this place seems really traditional. It's not what I'm looking for. Or maybe you want that traditional culture. So then you kind of know what to look for, like as you're visiting a gym or doing your first practice. Another one that's important, and again, this is kind of situational and it kind of depends on your coach, saving your questions when they're teaching. Typically, like as a jiu-jitsu coach, we have a lot of information we want to cover, and we have a lot of different people we're trying to teach, like dress to in a class, right? Like especially it's a big mixed levels class. We might have a lot of information we're trying to deliver, and like as a coach, when we teach, we're on. That's like giving 100% attention and showing those techniques. So try to save your questions and make sure your questions are well thought out when you do ask questions. Sometimes it's like not really a question. People just like throw out criticisms at you and stuff like that, or interrupt you while you're teaching. And that's just like a really bad habit to be forming with your coach. Like that's definitely a way to like ruffle your coach's feathers. So I've always saved my questions until they're like done, and they'll usually have like a pause. And if they're like open to questions, like in a group setting, that's great. I love that kind of like public forum way of teaching. And that's something I really kind of like encourage in my class, as long as the timing's right. But if I'm in the middle of explaining something and people start asking me questions, it's kind of throwing me off like the picture I'm trying to paint for you, you know? So try to save your questions for the right time. Really the best time is right after the break. So like usually I'll teach something, I'll disperse the group into pairs, and then that's like get my attention right away, be like, hey, can you show me this bit again? Like, I didn't understand this. What happens here? I try to leave like the what ifs out of my questioning altogether. That's like usually something for another time. But yeah, I think that's like something that'll really help you with just like understanding gym etiquette and culture, even from like an instructor's perspective. Something I was talking about with like my upper belts, which I think is something that's like really important for them, is letting the upper belts pick their partners. You need to understand like it's like a courtesy that upper belts do to like new students, especially in my academy, to like, if you're new, I typically put you with someone with more experience, but like learn to like appreciate and be grateful for that time, because they're doing that just to be like, to help out and like be good people and stuff like that. So try to not take advantage of that. Sometimes you don't want to build like a sense of entitlement. Like the experienced people are just there to help you, because they're actually there to train themselves. Remember, jiu-jitsu is a really long journey. So like you might get really lucky and might get to score like a purple belt or a brown belt. Sometimes it'll drill with you. But remember, when it comes time to spar or comes time to drill, sometimes they're going to prioritize themselves over you. And it's like not something personal. It's just what they need for their own personal development and growth. So it's like, it's really hard when you got white belts running up to all the time, like, will you drill with me? Will you train with me? All this stuff. So you just kind of want to let them pick their partners. If they're feeling like generous that day and they want to spend time working with you, that's great. Like be grateful for that time that they're sharing with you. If they don't, like it's kind of avoids that like awkward conversation, you know what I mean? So just kind of let them pick their partners. If they're happy to work with you, they're gonna be happy to work with you, you know? So just kind of let them come to you, and it'll kind of just like help them set their own priorities with their training, you know? Next one, this is gonna be very like academy specific, but there's a reason for it, which is either you're in or you're out when you're rolling. So like what we see sometimes like from upper belts is we'll see people like run to the wall right as sparring starts, and they want to sit out and they're like, oh, I want to rest one, or I want to rest a couple. And then like as the group gets more tired, they want to go back in and spar, which is kind of a weird situation, but it comes up quite a bit in jiu-jitsu. It's like if you want to go in fresh against a tired sparring partner, you're much more likely to injure them, especially if you're going in with that competitive mindset. And also, if you think you can like rest a couple around to get like an edge over your teammates, it's like not being a good teammate at all, and you're not really like pushing yourself to grow. So like something I really push with my guys, like I understand sometimes we're injured or we're just really run down that day and we don't feel like we should roll. That's fine, then don't roll. But don't wait 2 or 3 rounds for the group to get tired and then go in and like try to smash. It's not a good habit, and it shows. And your instructor will definitely be aware. And it's like it's not like a good quality you want to be building, and it's not like showing respect for your team. So something definitely to keep in mind. Oh yeah, another one. It's like a very simple one. It's like a gym cultural thing. This is like all gyms do this. When you go to roll, you slap and bump first. It's just like a really, it's just part of jiu-jitsu culture. I don't know where it originated from, but it's like just generally how the roll always starts. It's a very like club mentality thing, but even big academies do it. And I think it's just like a friendly way to kind of initiate. So when it comes time to spar, try not just to jump on the guy, do the little slap bump first, the little handshake. It's a really just nice way of like kind of getting the round started, and then you can kind of go from there. The last one I see from beginners is like grabbing fingers. Just be really mindful not to grab fingers, especially like the upper belts. Usually like you've done jiu-jitsu for a long time, you got tons of finger and hand injuries. So you just want to be really mindful not to be like grabbing fingers, and focus on, if it's gi, just focus on grabbing the gi. If it's no gi, you'll kind of learn how to grip, take some practice. But yeah, it's like, that's something like we see typically from beginners, but it's like just an adjustment period. Usually after a couple weeks, you'll break the habit of doing it. But yeah, these are just some kind of like general gym etiquette stuff. These are like the etiquette I keep in mind when I travel and I go teach at other academies, or I go train at other academies, just kind of showing respect. Again, like I think martial arts as a culture is very like respect driven. So you want to make sure you're being respectful, you have that good etiquette, and you have, you just kind of have that mindset in mind to create a good training environment for you and your team. And this should just help like ease you into training jiu-jitsu with a team, or if you're traveling and you're trying to meet new people. These are all things that I always kind of like keep in mind when I'm on the mat. So anyways, I hope this was insightful. If you guys have questions, comments, criticisms, anything, feel free to leave it in the comments. And make sure to subscribe to my channel so we can keep making more videos like this. All right, thank you all for watching.